Alrighty. I think we're setting up everything. I think we might be all set and all live. We are waiting for Michael Bonanno. Welcome to Ad Badger's April monthly customer webinar. Hope everyone out there is having a good one. Let's jump in over here. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Alrighty, Michael, I said it couldn't be done. We did it.
We did it.
We
technical difficulties. But
recording software. Did you have a nice weekend? Everything good in your neighborhood?
Yeah, it was. It's good.
Right.
Let's have a great week.
What makes up a great week for you?
Blend of productivity and enjoyment and like not feeling overwhelmed, but also feeling like, productive.
Success should feel easy and smooth.
This is true. Yeah, if it's an easy, smooth, successful week, then it's a good week.
That's right. And when you're not working, what are some things you do?
Work out, and I'm in kind of a beach town right now. So the beach thing, I remember we had like a secret Santa or something. What was it, last year too? I was doing the beach around then, and I got a beach gift from Ad Badger, from a secret Santa here.
Right on.
Yeah. So
big events in my life, I upgraded to a gigantic water jug.
Let me see. No.
Those are the big events in my life.
You got to go with glass now, right?
Like, you got to drink out of glass.
Plastic bottle, and microplastics are just all up inside us now, forever. Plastics, right?
Woo! Good stuff. Great, good topic. So, what we're going to cover today is we're going to better understand sales metrics per product. We're going to better understand ad cost metrics per product. And we're going to be talking about some upgrades that we're going to be making to the product dashboard columns. And these are really interesting, nuanced components of Amazon advertising that I do not believe a lot of people understand. So I wanted to start with sort of this idea of total ACoS. When you get on the phone with people, is total ACoS, does it come up a lot?
Yeah, it does. It does. People are that's what they like to track now. But to your point, what we're about to get into, I think maybe most people do track it at like an overall account level. Yeah.
I think it's a really interesting concept, right? Like, it's helpful to understand how much am I spending on product A and what is the total amount of revenue on it? Because most companies have a percentage of revenue that they want to spend on their ads, right? It makes total sense. Like, if I generate $10,000 on this product totally, I don't want to be spending $8,000 of that on ads, have an 80% total ACoS. I don't want to be way up there. I'd rather spend $1,000 on that product and generate $10,000 of sales. And hopefully a lot of them come from organic, right? Like, understanding the ratio is something that everyone wants to pay attention to. It's incredibly important to understand this sort of total ACoS ratio. But I think once you really begin to think about it, and I think when people watch this, they will begin to sort of understand and realize that these two things are actually, one is very simple to track. The other is really difficult to track. So we have total ACoS for an entire account, which is really simple. That's just how much you spent versus total amount of revenue. But as soon as you start getting down to a more specific level, which is what we're going to be talking about today, things can get pretty hairy. So let's actually look at that really quick. So I wanted to sort of map this out. Like, most people know total ACoS for their entire account. So if we do entire account, This should not be a surprise to people. This is total ad cost of sales, or ad cost of total sales. You really only need two metrics to understand this. The first one is total revenue for the business, and then you need total ad spend for the business for the entire account. So you have these two numbers and you're able to calculate total ACOS. It's really straightforward in that regard. So total ACOS is quite simple. And when we have those things, we should be able to define that pretty nicely. So let's say your ad spend is, 1,000. Your ad revenue is, 5,000. You'd end up with an ACOS of 20%. Pretty straightforward. Let's say your overall business did, $10,000 of revenue. You'd have a ad cost of total sales or total ACOS of 10%. I think for the most part, people understand this. And this is a really important thing to look at, understand, and track. We get that. But it gets much more complicated when we begin to look at per product metrics. And as you know, in our tool, we have these per product metrics. If I go into our dashboard and our product ad data, we begin to sort of peel back some layers. And this is just our demo account. So there's only one product in here. But when we go in here, we're able to see, okay, we have one product. And then if we look at the columns that you're able to choose from for that one product, you're able to sort of see, individual metrics for that product. When you go into total ACOS and you look at the metrics we have over here, we have things like total ACOS and total sales and units sold right next to their advertising metrics. And what I want to do today for our customers is really explain these columns and then talk about how we're going to be upgrading them in this quarter. I think this is actually a really exciting thing that if you're really into Amazon PPC, you'll find this really, really interesting. So let's get into an interesting part of Amazon advertising. So when you go into your campaigns and you begin to look at the definitions here. So here I am inside Amazon. And just to get somebody else talking, Michael, could you actually read this definition of what it means to look at advertising data in Amazon ads or inside our ad manager, really? Can you read this definition here?
Yeah, so these are products being advertised in sponsored products and sponsored display campaigns. Products advertised in sponsored brand campaigns are not included.
So that's also true for our product dashboard. So inside Ad Manager, when I go in here and I look at my product ads, and I'm looking at my product ads, you can see I can set up 3 separate product ads for this one product. So I can have more product ads than I have products, right? That makes sense. Like I can have a sponsored product, I can have a sponsored display, I can have an auto product ad, I can have a manual targeting product ad. So my product ads are different than the actual product that I have. So in addition to that, let's say this account had 50 products, but I'm only advertising one. When I get sales for those other things, it'll show up in my advertising data, which I don't know if a lot of people understand. So basically what that means is,
are those halo sales? I've heard people use
stuff
that
like that.
Halo.
Yeah. So it's very important to understand this over here when you look at advertising specific data. So we haven't gotten to total ACOS yet. We're just looking at advertising data only. Why don't you read this definition for us?
Yeah, so orders is the number of Amazon orders placed by shoppers attributed to your ads. Attribution depends on campaign type. Orders may include products not featured in the ad.
There you go. Very important last sentence here.
Mm-hmm.
Orders may include products not featured in the ad. So this is a really interesting sentence. Orders may include products not featured in the ad. And it looks like this. Let's say somebody clicks on a product A ad. They click on product A. Some people buy product A,
Mm-hmm.
and that revenue gets listed for products A product ad, right? Makes sense. They clicked on product A. They buy product A. That revenue gets listed for product A. Some people buy product B after clicking on product A. This revenue for product B also gets listed for product A's ad. Just pause there, let that sink in. Product A ad, some people buy product A. If they buy product A, that revenue gets listed right back at the product A ad. Some people buy product B after clicking on A. That revenue also gets listed for product A's revenue inside that product ad. Now, what's interesting about this is, number one, I don't know if a lot of people understand this. So there are lots of times where, product A ad might be listed with more revenue than the product actually got because it's including sales from product B, product C, product D, if they happened. And you know where this happens a lot with, child ASINs, variations. Let's say you're selling a t-shirt. Somebody clicks on the medium size. They buy the large. They buy the small. They buy the extra large. It's a supplement. They click on the 30 count, but they buy a 60 count, 180 count. Like this stuff happens all the time. Somebody clicks on the half gallon jar size. They buy the gallon jug. Stuff like this happens all the time. Now, for the purposes of advertising, you want to know that. You want to know the full impact of that product ad. When people click on this ad, how much revenue is generated after clicking on this ad, regardless of what product gets purchased. And when you look at Amazon, that just gets listed. Amazon's very straightforward. It just says orders. And really what they're meaning is like orders for any SKU after clicking on this ad. That's what they really mean. And even inside Ad Badger, that's exactly what we do as well. I lost my Ad Badger. So it's over here. So even inside Ad Badger, that's what we do as well. We sort of tell you the ACoS when you're looking inside Ad Manager. That's what it is because that's how it matches up. And what I'm really excited to do is we're going to be branching out here. We're going to be dropping a lot more columns, which I'm really excited about. And I really do think it's going to change the way that people interact with their advertising data and their total ACoS data. Because you can imagine here, when you have something like this, how do you track total ACoS? Because I'm spending money on the product A, I'm getting sales for product B. So technically, I'm sort of spending a little money on to get sales for product B through product A. So my product ad isn't the same as like what actually gets sold. So that's why I think you have to be really careful when you go in and you start talking about total ACoS per product, because your ad spend is for a product ad, and then you look at the revenue of products, which is, so it's not totally congruent how this sort of stuff gets calculated. So we're adding a couple different columns to sort of understand this. So let's have a section over here, upgraded Ad Badger columns, incoming we're in Q2 2024. So we're actively working on this. I just thought it was so interesting. I wanted to sort of prep people for what's coming down the pipeline. So what we're going to be listing is ad cost for the advertised SKU. This makes sense, right? It's like how much ad spend did we spend on that particular product, right? So pretty straightforward there. Then, of course, we're going to be listing out ad revenue for the same advertised SKU. So we're going to be listing that. So you see how much you spent on that product and then how much revenue was generated for that exact same product. And what's really cool here is we're going to be listing out revenue. So basically ad revenue for the other SKUs not advertised. So all of a sudden, you're going to be able to very easily compare in one place how much revenue did I generate for that exact same, product A, as well as, well, tell me how many sales I got for product B, C, D, E, F, G, all the other products. And then, of course, you add both of these together. And this is simply the, ad sales for all SKUs from the ad, which is really neat. So now all of a sudden, we're going to have this metric broken out. And probably the better way to list this graph is going to be like this. Ad revenue for all SKUs. And of course, then we're going to break it out nice and same SKUs and other SKUs. So I think this is going to be a huge upgrade to how we sort of understand the impact of our advertising for same SKUs and other SKUs. So I'm super stoked about this, to actually really be able to understand, okay, how much should I spend on this? How much revenue did it generate? And then I want both of those reporting metrics for the same SKU and other SKU. And this is so important these days because people are very concerned with profitability and margins and being sure that, I don't want to overspend here, which is really useful in 2024, as we really only want to spend money on things that are truly generating. So some things that you might see is like, okay, I spent, a whole bunch of money on this ad, and then actually I have more revenue in the other SKUs than I did the same SKU. That could help inform how you advertise. If you notice that your other SKUs are converting a lot, you might decide, let me change the ad itself to generate more interest for the SKUs that are actually converting. So I'm super excited to get to this, which I am very certain should help people spend more closely on the things that actually convert. So I absolutely love this component.
And as of now, there's no other tools that do this that we know of.
I do not know. Because this is really down on the weeds, right? This is really, I've always considered us to have like the technician's tool, trying to think about things that are real and true and, not dumbing it down. So when you have these sort of decisions to make about how much you're spending, what your profitability is per product, trying to list both of these makes the app a little bit more complicated, but it's for people's benefit. So, one belief that I always have is like Amazon advertising is so complex, which is why we dedicate a lot of time to education, support. People can book calls directly from our tool to sort of break these down and sort of interpret what these things mean, to sort of provide that extra helping hand for a lot of this stuff. So I think this will be a really nice upgrade. And once you sort of wrap your head around that, people can click on product A. People can click on product A. You get sales for product A that get listed for that product. And then in addition, if they buy product B, that revenue also gets listed for product A. So what we're going to be able to do now is, tell you that ad revenue for all the SKUs, but then break out same SKU and other SKU, which I'm really excited about. So this is a really, really nice upgrade. And there's a couple other columns too that we're going to be rolling out that are going to be really helpful. Because then what you can begin to do is you can begin to say, okay, add cost for that advertised SKU, add revenue for that advertised SKU. And then from there, you can also list your sort of ACOS for, that product ad, right? Because the product ad itself has all the SKUs. So ACOS for the product ad is the same as sort of like ACOS for all purchased revenue. So it's sort of saying for everything that this generated, what is the ACOS for that? So we have the ad cost and the ad revenue. So what is the ACOS of that total SKU that I'm advertising? And then from here, you'll also be able to sort of begin to piece together, your ACOS for the same SKU, same SKU ACOS, as well as other SKU ACOS. Which I really, really like, to be able to differentiate between these things.
It's like true ACOS.
It's absolutely, yeah. So that word true ACOS gets kicked around a lot.
Yeah.
But I think that's really helpful to sort of have both of those listed. Now, how does this change total ACOS tracking? How does this change total ACOS tracking? Well, I think that's a really interesting thing. So let's go back to our little visual map here. So we have that upgraded Ad Badger column. And one thing we're going to have is, of course, put it out all the way over here. So let's talk total ACOS per product metrics. So total ACOS per product is a really interesting one. And what we're going to have is, of course, total sales for that product. And, this is sort of the total sales for that advertised product, which is really helpful to know. So you have your total ACOS per product and then total sales for the advertised products. And this is going to be all sources, right? Paid and organic. So you can begin to break this down. We have our total ACOS per product. And then what we can add in here is your ad revenue, and your organic revenue. So you're advertising a product. You can see the total sales for that advertised product, and you can begin to see the ad revenue that came from that product versus the organic revenue that came from that product. Now, for ad revenue is related to the ad cost. So how much did I actually spend on that product? So what's cool about this is you'll be able to see the total ad sales for that product, and you'll be able to see the total ACOS for that product based on the ad revenue for that same SKU, which is a really interesting component. A lot of people think that their ACOS is one thing because their ACOS is including revenue for any product that got that sale, which hurts their profitability. So let's say you're spending a lot of money on product A, but most people buy product B. The total ACOS for product B is actually pretty bad. It might be 50, 60, 70%. And if you're including ad revenue for every single other SKU, that's going to give you a much better total ACOS than you think you have. So then you'll be able to see product B that has a much better total ACOS. So you'll know where to spend your money a little bit better. So that's super valuable to understand that our total ACOS is actually getting a big upgrade this quarter. You're actually going to be able to see like how much you're spending on that SKU and how much total revenue that SKU generated. Being able to much better predict and understand your total ACOS per product. So I think this is a really nice upgrade. We spent a lot of time thinking about these metrics, and these are the metrics. The big thing here is Ad Badger switching to a SKU-based analysis. We used to currently, so in quarter 2, we're going to be upgrading to a SKU-based analysis, which will be able to allow us to do same SKU, other SKU analysis, which I can't wait for. So we're going to be getting a lot more accurate. And that's going to be great. We're going to be listing same SKU sales, other SKU sales, which is really nice. And how about this one? We got BSR. We got bestseller rank. I'm really big into competitive metrics. And this is really our first competitive metric that we're going to have in our tool. So how well are you performing in your category? Be able to actually track that changing over time. So I'm really, really excited about having a BSR, a competitive metric inside our tool to track alongside things like total ACOS and ad spend and same SKU ACOS and total ACOS. So yeah, just really, really nice upgrades incoming to AdBadger to really help inform your product sales as well as your total ACOS data. And that's sort of the thing that I've been thinking about the most this past sort of few weeks inside AdBadger, getting our product data upgraded. So I know that when you talk to a lot of people, like getting accurate data is really important. And I think that accurate is really hard because accurate is all relative. So when you look here and you see the orders, and the orders are for the products that you advertised and any other product, that's actually accurate. It is a way to measure it.
Mm-hmm.
But what you really need are options. I want to measure it, that product and any product, see what kind of conversions they have. And then I also want to measure just that product. So by giving options is how you actually get more accurate. So like product ad A, some people buy product ad. I want to see the revenue for that. Some people buy product B. That is going to get listed back over here by default on Amazon. But what happens if I want to see the sales for product B next to my product ad? So this is where sort of having the ad cost for the advertised SKU, ad revenue for all SKUs, and then same SKUs and other SKUs is really, really valuable. So accuracy is a really interesting word in Amazon advertising because sponsored products measures one way, sponsored display measures another way, sponsored brands measures another way. Product ads are measured differently versus total ad revenue, total product revenue. So it's all very complex. And by having additional columns that are going to list this stuff out is going to be really nice. Now, we've got an interesting question from Emil. And this is a hot topic. Will all campaign types be included for the total ACOS calculation? As far as I know, sponsored brand sales are not visible on the ASIN level. And that is correct. So even in Amazon's definition, which we have right here, even in Amazon, so this is a limitation by Amazon. So it says here, these are products being advertised in sponsored products and sponsored display campaigns. Products advertised in sponsored brand campaigns are not included. And it's actually a really simple answer because for sponsored brands, you might have a store ad where somebody clicks on it and they go to the store and see all of your products. How does that ad spend get distributed? So sponsored brands are a really complicated part to total ACOS tracking. So one limitation that you have when you think of total ACOS tracking is, of course, sponsored brands, which if you really think about what a sponsored brand ad is, it's not really a product ad. It's more of a creative. It's a creative. It's like you're seeing a custom image. You might click on that and you might go to the store page. So they're closer to a different kind of ad type. So I try not to think of sponsored brands as like a 1-to-1 ratio. Like I'm spending on product A. It's more so you're spending on a group of products potentially. So as of right now, this is a limitation by Amazon, which makes this a rather tricky question. However, I believe what we're doing is as accurate as we can possibly be, to include sponsored products and sponsored display data inside here. It's tricky. It really is. Good question, Emil.
You work in, you're in like the core community, and you talk to a lot of high level PPC people. How much of like a mindset shift do you think, like how much of an educational aspect and mindset shift do you think this is going to be, or are people already wanting it and desiring it and they just couldn't get it?
Everyone is always seeking more accurate data. Everyone's seeking more accurate data to better make decisions. So if you can present those additional columns in the same spot, like we'll be doing, it really makes it much easier. So it allows you to sort of look at your advertising performance. It allows you to look at your individual product performance. When you have these columns right next to each other, it makes better decision making easier. So if you don't track it, if you don't look at it, you don't know how it's not hurting you. So what you'll eventually see is like certain situations where product A, people click on product A. So let's say you spent a whole bunch of money on product A, and then you go and find out that not many people are buying product A. They're buying product B. The next logical thing would be to stop spending so much on product A and spend more on product B, because that's what people are really buying. Reduce your ad spend on product A, increase your ad spend on product B. So this kind of strategy is so simple, but I think it's really going to help people make better decisions. Rich asks a really nice question. Is there a parent ASIN view in this product's reporting? Yeah, Rich. So what's going to be cool about this is we're switching to a SKU-based analysis. So currently SKU is not inside AdBadger. We're putting it in, and this we're currently expecting this to be grouped by ASIN. So ASIN, and then underneath it will be the SKUs of that ASIN, and you'll be able to then see for that ASIN all the sub SKUs. So if you have a lot of different SKU variants for that particular ASIN, you'll be able to see that broken out really nicely. And again, be able to identify, tell me about the same SKU sales, the same SKU information versus the other SKU information, making this level of analysis so easy. It's going to be similar to like the interface that we have in similar to like the Ngram analyzer, where you sort of have one thing and then you click on it and sub rows will open up. This is just the demo account, so I don't have all the columns here. If I go like this.
Longer, 30, yeah, usually.
There we go. So similar to how like you have one summary row and then you click to expand and you have other rows underneath it. So like this would be your ASIN, and then you'll be able to click on it and see all the SKUs that contributed to it. So I like that level of analysis there. So great question, Rich. Hopefully that answers your question. Emil, thanks for letting me know. I guess when you're playing with total ACOS versus ACOS, SB can be neglected then, as long as you spend 90% of your budget on sponsored brands. I agree. Because if you think about it, total ACOS per product is really difficult to pin down. So taking out sponsored brands is the only way, unless Amazon begins to give us that information about who actually got the spend for that particular product. So it makes it pretty tricky there. So yeah, extra columns. There you go. Just making AdBadger a little bit more, making better decisions easier, which I think is the name of the game here.
Yeah, it should be a good one.
Yeah, and to sort of finish up here, what I wanted to, I wanted to put some interest and some feelers out for bringing back our customer advisory board. So basically what we want to start doing is start having conversations like this in a private, intimate setting. So if you're an AdBadger customer, and this is our customer webinar, what I wanted to start doing was just sort of begin to gauge interest on customer advisory board, where basically we have a group of customers who, in exchange for sort of a discount on the software, just test and share feedback on new features. So for example, these columns, really interested in to hear how people will put them to work. If there's any additional columns that they need, like that kind of thing. Name of the game for us is to really get even more feedback for our tool, really specific conversations about different parts of our tool, which I think will be really nice. So if you're interested, definitely fill that out. Because one thing I think is really special about AdBadger is that I think we're really close to our customers, way more than I think a typical tool where we talk to a lot of people. Almost all of the ideas that we build come from people that we talk with. So I want to build like a sort of a formal way to interact with people who are customers, get that feedback, collect that feedback, put that feedback to work, do customer interviews. I think those things can be really valuable. So I absolutely love that. I'm really proud that we do things like this. And I sort of just wanted to formalize it. And that's what it could look like over there on the right. Little customer advisory board.
Yeah. I like that image. Are you thinking of doing like having a meeting once a month with everybody on it? And
you know, I have a question in that questionnaire about like what format do they think would they prefer? Is it just a once a month webinar where we ask questions, or is it like a Slack channel or a Facebook group or something like that? So I want to get some community feedback in terms of what that will look like, but I'm excited because out of, I talked to other people from other industries, and like having a formal customer advisory setup, I think will be really good. And something that we're so baked into anyway. We talk to every single one of our customers one-on-one. We invite everyone to have office hours one-on-one with us. So I think this is just sort of the next step to get even more feedback, to sort of learn how people are using the tool, and hopefully people sign up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it, Michael. Upgrades to our product columns. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it is good.
I think anyone who really cares about how much you're spending per product and how much revenue you generate per product are going to love that.
And the people that don't need to learn to, because it's just now, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, people more and more now this year than any of the others. I'm just hearing people that are like, margins are so tight.
They're getting tighter.
So,
and part of that is it's like making decisions on your advertising that are somewhat incomplete, because you're making decisions on your advertising for any product that got after the click. But what you want to do is make decisions on the products that actually got sales after the click. Cool. Well, that's it for now. Hope everyone has an amazing, productive week. Michael, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you.
And we got a new podcast coming later this week. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye-bye.